a thing I want to do as well before we carry on. I want to go to the tailor, and I want to turn on all of the... I'm not going to turn on Sholmes' bloody weird Japanese jumble mix. That looks stupid. But this will look good for when Susato gets back, you know, to England, assuming that's going to happen. And seeing, you know, Ryu has probably gone native now. So I want to turn that on. Cute it is. It's a cute outfit, isn't it? And you can only use those outfits in Game 2 as well, so... The Adventure of the Blossoming Attorney. Yeah. So Susato is currently the attorney, pretending to be a dude in a Japanese court, because ladies not allowed in court, apart from the defendant, who is also a lady. Oh, and that's right, we've got friggin' Sosuke over here, getting all twitchy. But let's look at the court record. Let's catch up on what we've got. So, to introduce the murder, for those that missed the case that we're on, let's go to the Peoples. Everybody remember her, Giselle Brett, from the first case in the first game. She was stabbed in the back in a beach hut. She's been waiting here to be extradited back to British hands because of the murder of Dr. John Watson that she was found guilty of. This lady here, Ray Membami, she was also working under Dr. John Watson, and she idolized him. So she has motive to kill her, but she's been arrested for the murder. She was the only other person in the beach hut at the time. So, also, Inspector Hosonaga was there. He was supposed to be keeping an eye on her, like she was under some kind of, like, lame-ass house arrest that wasn't even... She didn't even need to stick to the house. She was allowed to work in this lab that she was still in, this biology lab. And Mikotoba was the one who was running it. Turns out a poison has been stolen from that place. So... it's possible that she was killed with it. This is the murder scene, stabbed in the back, right there. The knife was there, but it was removed by Ray, and she was probably stabbed through that crack, but that hasn't come up yet. There's also a spilled glass of wine and a pen in her hand. Turns out the pen has an emblem on the top. And that emblem is the same as the one on this guy's arm. He's a reporter. He was also there because this guy, who's now an author, was there. And, you know, he was writing a story. Then he decided to have an interview with Giselle Brett inside the tent moments before the killing, and then left. And he always says he uses pencils, but you'll notice his hand has an ink stain on it. So we've got to come around to telling him about the fountain pen. We also notice that the pen has no ink in it at all. The reservoir is empty. You draw, this is an old style, where you draw the ink out of a font and into the reservoir in the pen to use it. So you dip it in, it draws it up, and then you use it. So it could be used for the poison as well. And they figured the knife might have had the poison on it, but they tested it with the chemical reagent, and it turns out it didn't have the poison on it at all. So that was why Ray was removing the knife, but she got photographed actually, you know, doing that, and it looks like she's stabbing her. So that's where we're at right now with the case. We're still trying to prove that she didn't do it. So let's have a quick look at the history and see what we looked at last. Yeah, that was it. The guy's Many Memo. That's the name of the reporter. Let's see. What did we get out of him last time? According to my notes, that man has a secret of his own. Brace yourself. It's not a harmless one. It's big. Who was that? I couldn't speak out alone about this. You need to call back an earlier witness. So, oh yeah, that's right. He wanted to... He told us to get Sosuke Natsume back on the sand. For some reason. He said he had a secret. The evil little student girl showed her face in the hut. I could have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes, that's all. Just a brief exchange. It came to nothing. And as we many memoists say, the people don't pay the dues for unworthy news. But we want to. He was the one who also wrote about the missing poison. I think she told him about that, and I think she might have stolen it. And I think she did it with his full knowledge. I think he's lying. I think he wanted to get his hands on this poison because she came in the middle of an interview that Sosuke and Professor Mikotoba were having and said something about an incident that obviously we don't want people to know about and was very vague. Must have caught this reporter's eye. That got everybody wanting to go to have a look at the lab then, where they were developing this poison for the government. I think this guy gave her a pen and told her to steal some, so that he can write a story about it. That's what I think. I don't think we've gotten to prove that yet. Anyway, let's get on with it. I asked the Englishwoman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witness come running. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question. But he didn't say anything about that in his testimony, which is why Many-Memoism demands I reveal it now. Interesting. You mean to say the victim regained consciousness? Ah, well, and when she did, you decided to ask her a question? That's true, yes. He did. And that's not all. The woman gave him a very definite answer. An answer that incriminates the accused. Let me guess. Who did this to you? This is preposterous. Why am I only hearing about this now? Why didn't you mention this before, you yokel hack? It wasn't even a conversation. Yes, I did pose the Wuthering English Rose a question. I don't deny it. But she could no longer speak. She was barely conscious even. Counsel for the defense, I expect a thorough cross-examination to be conducted here. This court must and will know the truth. Oh my god, she's wearing it here. But she's not a lady, guys. She's not a lady at all. It's fine. Not a lady. This is clearly a dude. 100% a dude. Just ignore... Oh god, what have we done? I'm glad the game isn't smart enough to realize what this is. Oh no. Absolutely, Your Excellency. The reporter is claiming that Miss Brett implicated Ray somehow. What on earth could have happened in that hut? That's so stupid. I thought at the very least the first case she might still be wearing all the guys' clothing, you know, and then she'll put this on when she gets to London. The witness's secret. Okay, so let's press him. Asked for an interview, she declined and left the hut without making a fuss. Bullshit. You asked her for an interview, you say? Well, of course I did. I wanted to ask her about the incident she was involved in at the end of last year. About the case which Dr. John H. Wilson lost his life. That's not the way I phrased it. Many-Memoism calls for straight talking. Why did you murder Dr. Wilson? Is how I put it to her. Yes, that sort of talking is as straight as a ruler. Ask every question, as if you're asking for a menu in a restaurant, I say. That's the best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that. How did Miss Brett answer? With one simple phrase. Mystery is a woman's charm. Ooh, that told me. So I waltzed right out of there. Really, something about that doesn't quite seem to fit together. Leave every room as if you're waltzing in a dance hall, I say, the best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that. Watching a secret from outside, saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. That was very persistent of you, considering that Miss Brett had just turned you away. You pervert, still looking through the fucking reads. Persistence wins the prize. Any memoist Wow. Any memo... Many I've done well with this one so far. This hasn't tied me up once, and now... You put the word any in front of it? Fuck you, tongue. Just, yeah. Whew. Okay. Any many memoist will tell you that. Let them think you've left just when they lower their guard. That's when you swoop for the scoop. Let me guess, a veteran at the newspaper told you that? And the fruits of your labor are all too apparent in this telling photograph. Although I'm sure the young yokel student would rather not be reminded of this damning evidence. Actually, it's thanks to that photograph that we managed to identify this witness. And that's how you found me. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I've got nothing to hide. I'm sure. Please do go ahead, witness. The court is eager to hear what you have to say. Try to stop me. There's a story to tell here, and I'm going to tell it. The detective realized the victim had a pulse and ran to fetch help. And Sosuke-san remained behind in the hut. Yep, that's right, yep. Our author friend here was a blabbering wreck, shaking all over from his head to his toes, mustache twitching, eyes bulging. So, normal then. Cool. And what do you expect? You don't know the terrifying troubles that taunted me while traveling abroad. Back behind baleful bars. They'll be coming for me, surely. That's all I could think. I felt as though I were grasping for air, drowning in a sea of cold sweat. Poor Sosuke-san, his experience in London have scarred him deeply. As the world seemed to close around me, I quietly recited a prayer to Amida Buddha. Eternal emptiness, empty, eternity. The end is coming for me, surely. No sutras are to resound in my courtroom, please. Are to resound in my courtroom. Yes, no Kama Sutras either. Don't do that. Don't do that in court, please. And now we come to the crucial part. That's when it happened. That's when the writer man asked the woman the very significant question.
Hold it!
What question? What exactly did he say? Well now, you should hear that from the horse's mouth, I think. Making a martini over there, let's just give him a minute. Don't you, Mr. Writer Man? Ah! Out with it, you yokel hack! What did you say to her? What did you say to the dying Englishwoman? Well, in truth, I'd been catching crabs at the water's edge and building castles in the sand, you see. Well, the seaside is the place to be at leisure, I suppose, even for a grown man. Hey, never too old to build a sandcastle, come on. Or catch crabs, or... well... let's move on from that. But then all of a sudden, from that little beach hut, a young girl's panic-stricken cries for help pierced the air. Ray? I ran to the beach to see what was happening, to find the defendant leaning over the collapsed victim. As soon as Inspector Hosonaga saw Miss Brett on the ground, he sprinted off to get help. And then, just a moment later, I heard a faint moan. A moan from the dead Englishwoman. I nearly jumped out of my skin! But what did you ask her, Sosuke-san? I asked her, who did this to you? Don't protract this any longer. How did the woman respond? She didn't. She said nothing in response. But... When in the stand, you will answer the questions asked of you unambiguously. Now, without evasion or reticence, I demand that you amend your testimony. I will! Oh. I asked her who did this to you, but she never replied.
Hold it!
Okay. So you tried to find out who the culprit was. He who asks a question is a fool for a minute. He who does not remains a fool forever. That's a good one, I like that. And having been labelled a criminal twice during my time in Great Britain, I was quick to make up my mind. Better to be a fool for a minute than remain a fool in prison forever. However, you've indicated the victim failed to respond, is that correct? I know why. I know why the Englishwoman said nothing. She was ignoring me because of my stoop and mustache because I'm Japanese. Sure. Really, yeah, she was judging you. In her final moments, she was judging you harshly. Oh dear, Sosuke-san has really developed a dislike for the English, it seems. Having read the report on this time in Great Britain, I can't say I'm surprised at his xenophobia. But the Englishwoman didn't ignore you at all, did she, Mr. Writer-man? Well, yes, all right. She did respond in a manner of speaking, I suppose. Let me guess, she pointed with the pen? Oh, she lifted a trembling finger and pointed in the direction of the defendant. Miss Brett pointed a finger at the defendants. Sosuke-san, is that really true? It's not easy to stand here like this and say, but when we first entered the beach hut, the Englishwoman was sprawled on the floor before us, with the student girl standing on the far side of her. And when I asked who did this to you, a big hand came out of her arse and went there. The Englishwoman summoned her last ounce of strength to point a trembling finger at the back of the hut. Oh, the back of the hut. Which was, it can't be denied, in the direction of the student girl who stands accused today. Yeah, where the photographer was as well, yeah. No. Sosuke-san, why on earth did you neglect to mention this in your original testimony? But fiddlesticks, I say. This is not a British court of law. You will respond in Japanese. Yes, of course. The Englishwoman did point her finger towards the back of the hut, but I was trembling, she was trembling, everything was a blur. The ground was trembling. Was there an earthquake? And thinking about it, I feel as though perhaps she was pointing in a slightly different direction. Actually, no, not slightly, a very different direction, to where the student girl was standing. To somewhere at the back of the hut, where nobody was standing at all. You mean that your memory of events and the direction in which the victim was pointing are both unclear? Yes, that's it, unclear. I'm very, very unclear. Your Excellency, surely this proves the matter beyond all reasonable doubt. Yes, the woman may barely have been conscious, and yes, perhaps her finger wavered slightly, but there can be no doubt that this was an attempt by the victim to confirm the identity of her assailant. Why? Because, as the court can see, there was no one other than the accused in the direction of the victim was pointing. It is now abundantly clear that no one besides the accused could possibly have committed this crime. I am inclined to agree, and in the absence of any credible argument to the contrary, I believe we can now conclude the trial. No! 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 The headline's writing itself. Dashing lawyer's hopes dashed. 92 points across the whole page. We'll do an extra edition. This is a serious blow, Susato. Unless we're able to identify a true culprit and substantiate our claim with evidence, the judge will give his ruling and the trial will be over. But that's impossible, Father. We don't even know how the crime was committed yet. Impossible though the task may seem, we have no choice. Must think back over everything we've learned thus far. Somewhere in all those details, I'm confident we'll find the clue we need. Ray gives her account of how events unfolded in the defendant's antechamber before the trial resumed. She told us what happened at the precise moment Miss Brett was killed. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying, and then, a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet. Before collapsing on the floor in front of me with a knife in her back. How could Miss Brett have been stabbed in the back in a beach hut that was empty but for herself and Ray? Somewhere amid the information we've gathered so far, there must be an answer to that question. I take it then that the defense has nothing further to add? So the gallant yokel student's luck finally runs out. Can't say I'm surprised. In that case, I'm ready to deliver my final verdict on this matter. This is a crucial turning point now. If I can't establish what really happened, it's over. Where was the real culprit hiding, and how did he or she stab the victim? I know!
Objection!
Objection! Oi, mate! Your Excellency, I respectfully ask you to postpone your adjudication for the time being. Oh, to what end, Counsel? The defense would like to present the court with an alternative theory. An alternative theory that can explain who the victim was actually trying to implicate with her dying gesture. Yeah, come on, Susato, we figured it out right at the first photograph. Look, these characters are a little slower than the rest of us. There's no shame in that. They're not me, okay? They're you know, they're worse. Which is a tall order, but still. An alternative theory? Ha! None exists! There was someone else present at the scene who could have committed the crime. What? Nani? And the victim, Miss Brett, tried to reveal who it was to those around her at the time by mustering all of her remaining strength and pointing a trembling finger in the killer's direction. This is fiction, fantasy. No, dude, this is reality. Very well. As you seem so sure of yourself, Counsel, I'm prepared to hear your alternative theory. So, young Ryotaro Naruhodo, yeah, that's my name. Yes, Your Excellency. Totally a guy. You will present your latest theory to the court by means of the plan. Looks like he's caught in a landslide, yeah. At the moment the victim was stabbed, where exactly are you proposing the culprit was concealed? Right over here.
Take that!
Naruhodo-san would never give up, and I'm a Naruhodo now. For a while at least. The true culprit who fatally stabbed Miss Brett was concealed in this location here. Are you mad, Counsel? You're suggesting the culprit was outside the hut? What? Nani? Oh yes. Order! Order! But student lawyer Naruhodo-san, Esquire, that makes no sense at all. You've just pointed out the exact spot where I was hiding to get my scoop snap. But I didn't see any suspicious individuals loitering about. I can swear to that. Maybe because there wasn't a mirror back there. Obviously, if the culprit had been outside the hut, there is no way that he or she could have stabbed the victim who was inside the hut. Actually, Prosecutor Ouchie, there is a way. Huh? And in point of fact, the defense can provide evidence strongly suggesting that is precisely the way Miss Brett was killed. You're bluffing. You're bluffing, you yokel. The defense's assertion is clearly too fantastical for the court to comprehend. You will need to give us more guidance, Counsel. What piece of evidence corroborates the theory the victim was stabbed from the outside of the hut? Now, it could be this, because we see the crack, right? But also, just the simple fact that this guy was able to pull the reeds apart and actually take this picture, you know, shows that anybody could have done that and used the knife as well. So which one do we show? I'm gonna go with this one, the first one that we actually spotted, because the knife is thin and it would fit through there. The big gap, like where the guy was actually taking the picture from, given the slight position of the body, was probably over here. So it's got to be this one. That one just proves the concept.
Take that!
The original photographic print of the crime scene? Yes, it's clearly visible in this print, and I've been wanting to tell you since the beginning of the trial, and say, no, hang on, the guy was stabbed through here. This gap, that's where the knife came through. Case solved, let's go home. I want some fish and chips. But no, apparently not. The trace of the fatal thrust that was delivered from outside the beach hut. Do you take us for fools? There's no hint of any such thing. I'm not sure everyone present would agree. Someone, at least, appears to have noticed what it is that I'm referring to. Counsel, once again I must call on you to be explicit for the court. Where on the photograph is the trace of the stabbing which you claim took place from the outside of the hut? It is right there. Hang on, I want to get really accurate with this. Alright, fuck it. That'll do. Right there. Look closely, just here. In the screen at the back of the hut, you can see the effects of a blade having been forced through the reeds. No, it can't. I can't see any such thing. Get your eyes tested, Ouchie. It's true the hut in question had 4 walls as you'd expect, however, by parting the reeds, a knife blade could easily penetrate them. This is extraordinary. Yes. The true culprit actually stabbed the victim from outside the beach hut. And, of everyone present at the scene, there is only one person who could have done that. Only one person who was directly outside the hut when Miss Brett was killed. Raiten Menimemo-san. It could only have been you. No!
Objection!
This preposterous idea leaves me almost speechless. Just look at the photograph again. The victim lies almost exactly in the center of the beach hut, does she not? Are we to assume, as part of this farcical scenario, the assailant was a knife thrower?
Objection!
No, of course not. We're not. Oh god, she got the book out, dude. You're in trouble now. If you recall the testimony of the defendant about the events just before the victim's death, inside the beach hut I confronted Miss Brett, but she just sat on the stool at the back of the hut smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. Because she confronted her about the whole stealing of the poison, being like, it was you, I know it was you, you! So, yeah, a stool? Have another look at the photograph. It's right there. The slit in the reed screen would align perfectly with the back of the person who was sitting on that stool. My word. So, in fact, the victim was killed while sitting on that stool by a stab wound to her back delivered through the reed screen. Having been attacked, Miss Brett rose to her feet instinctively, but then, unable to speak, she collapsed on the floor in the middle of the hut, before the defendant, Membami-san's appalled eyes. And that, Your Excellency, is the truth of what happened on the beach that day. By your silence, Menimemo-san, I take it you don't deny the charge? This is absurd! That will do. It would appear that we have a tacit admission of guilt from the witness. Accordingly, this court has successfully established the truth of the matter, which means that the defendant, Membami-san, is innocent of this crime. Well, just like that. No last-minute twist. Oh, thank goodness. Oh, it's coming, though. I finally made him cave. I must say, I've never been more proud. No, this can't be. The Ouchie clan can't. What of my growth? My growth of hope? It wasn't all an apparition. I can't accept this. I won't. I see no reason for the continuance of this trial. I will therefore move to conclude proceedings by delivering my... Oh. Well, this is all very convenient. This is how the highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? suppressing well-meaning citizens' freedoms to speak and branding them as criminals. But we've established the victim was stabbed from outside the hut through the reed screen walls. No one but you was in place at the time to have this hand on the hilt of the blade. It's perfectly a logical deduction. So your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? He's going to say what we were just saying, that he was off to the side. He wasn't directly at the back, he was around the side of the hut. Well, it seems a little irrelevant now. Irrelevant? Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed, it doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference if you think about it. After all, this trial's already shown the whole thing hinges on something else. What are you talking about? Brace yourself, little man. I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed. That's gotta hurt when he does that. Ow. Because of the dirt you dug up. What? Enough obscurity. Explain yourself, witness. What's to explain? I'm talking about the poison, of course. The poison? Let's ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? I understand that a deadly poison you were developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct? And it's been shown that this poison was administered to the victim, Miss Brett, is that right? That is correct. The unusual constriction of the victim's pupils are a sure sign that this particular poison was used. Dapus! Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. Come on in. How's your day been? Welcome to your Monday afternoon. Hope everything's good. I see, I see. So, presumably, that means that the victim already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed? Given that her pupils were clearly constricted, it seems highly likely, yes. If she had been dead already, the poison could not have circulated in her blood. How refreshing to hear the argument of a metropolitan mind. Precisely! It matters not a jot who stabbed whom in whose back, and with whose blade. Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by the knife, but by the poison.
Objection!
Probably a bit of both. But that can be explained by the poison being on the blade, as
Objection!
Yeah, but it's not though, is it? Forgotten already, have we, yokel? During the very proceedings, the laboratory of the professor at your side assisted, proving that the blade of the weapon used to attack the victim had no trace of poison whatsoever. So let me get this down. The facts, as skillfully established by the defense in this trial, turn out to be the headline-making red herring. Is that about right? Well... Ah! You're good. Smacked your head on a shelf while trying to take pics of my old bed you're selling. Oh, ouch. No breaking yourself. No breaking yourself. That is not allowed. Hope it feels better now. Hope it wasn't too big of a smack, because I whacked my head really hard on something the other week, and ow, it really hurt for a while. Order! Order! But where does this leave us? How, in that case, did the poison enter the victim's body? There is an undeniably obvious answer to that. The lady most likely imbibed it. You mean she drank it? Have another look at the photograph here. As you can see, he was drinking wine. Oh, or it's water. A bottle of carbonated water in a glass had been knocked to the sandy floor of the beach. The poison could have been slipped into either. So somebody made Miss Brett drink it? Well, what do you know? Look at those dashing eyes. This will make a great front page shot. Hey, why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. It would make no sense at all that I poisoned the woman, would it? I mean, that's been established already. Established? What are you talking about? Don't tell me you've forgotten. Hopefully no more breakage, yes. No breakages at all. That's a little hard to believe, given the person who established it was you. Me? What on earth does he mean? Ooh, let me capture those wide eyes. This is a prime press fodder, this is. It would seem that this trial is not destined to end after all. I hereby call on the witness to give further testimony. That's great, that is. Let me get a shot of that magnificent beard, Your Excellency. You claim it to be impossible that you were the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You will explain to the court in your testimony the basis upon which you make such a claim. I'm a journo and I'm a man. I've never tried to run nor hide from anything in my life. And I'm not about to start now. Because that's many-memoism. May I ask what the heck is happening? Yep. So, we're in the first case of the second game now. Susato's back in Japan. Ignore the fact that she's wearing this outfit. I enabled it in the settings today. She should be wearing an outfit like Ryu from the first game. She's trying to pass as a guy. Not really convincing in this thing, but she's not allowed to be in court because this is back in Japan and they have, you know, that kind of backward thinking. So, yeah, in this time period anyway. So, basically, she's trying to defend a girl. Let's go through the court record again. She's trying to pass off as a guy. Yeah, it's because they have rules, you know, like no ladies in the court, it's the men only and all that stuff. So, they're quite sexist. So, this lady, Raymond Barmy, is being accused of stabbing Giselle Brett, who was the suspect from the first trial in the first game, the one who killed Dr. John Wilson. So, she's still waiting to be deported with the British Empire and everything, and that was due to happen in a couple of days, but she's been killed. And in the meantime, she was under like an observational arrest. They sent people like Detective Hosonaga around to keep an eye on her and watch her while she still gets on with her day. She was still allowed to go to the lab and everything. The lab was developing a poison though, under Professor Mikotoba, a new poison, and part of it got stolen, and Ray suspected Giselle had done it. So after... Let's go back actually, there's a couple of other people. After Sosuke Natsume from the first game, the author, who was studying English literature, we had defended him, he's come back to Japan, he started writing a book and he visited the university and had an interview with Mikotoba, and this press guy was with them taking pictures. The press guy and Sosuke overheard from Giselle Brett that there was something going on at the lab, some top secret project, so he had to give him an obligatory tour of the lab, during which time it seems that a bit of the poison that they've been developing has been stolen. So basically we're trying to prove that Ray didn't stab Giselle Brett and that she was actually poisoned, but we don't know exactly how yet. What we do know, and what we've just recently determined, is that she was stabbed at through that screen while she sat on that stool. You know, she was sitting on the stool and she was stabbed through the crack in the screen, stood up, and then collapsed to the ground. The witnesses have said that she was pointing with her last dying breath back in that direction, and that Ray was actually standing there. But we've now determined, no, that's because she got stabbed through the reed screen of this hut, this beach hut. She also was gripping a pen, which has the logo on it for this press guy. We haven't come round to this yet. We don't know how this is going to work yet, but I think this is the means by which the poison was stolen. They used the ink reservoir on it to steal the poison. This is a picture that the guy took, though, the reporter. He was also at the beach. He wanted to get an interview with Giselle Brett about her murder trial nearly a year ago, and instead she told him to bugger off, or that's what he says. I think, though, he asked her to steal the poison so that he could write a story about it. And then he's killed her to avoid answering unwanted questions. Or someone else has, we don't know yet. But he took this picture thinking, well, it would make Ray look, you know, like she stabbed him. But she was pulling the knife out because she recognized the severely constricted pupils and figured, poison, the blade must have it on it, and she tried to pull the knife out to save her life. So we've been going around in circles with that for a while, but that's where we're at right now. And now this guy has surprised us all by saying, well, I couldn't possibly have done it. You're forgetting, first of all, there was poison in her system, which you've proven, but you don't know how it got in her system, probably the drink that she had. And does it matter who stabbed her or not, even if it was me or not? The knife didn't kill her, the poison killed her. And he's like, besides, there's other reasons why I couldn't have done it, which you've already shown us. And now he's going to testify about it. So, yeah. The costume is an optional in the settings, yes. They only work in the second game. But I enabled it today thinking, oh, when we finish this trial, she'll probably put it on. No, she started the trial with it on. And I'm like, but she still looks like a guy, right? It's cool. So for a brief moment I thought I'd illuminated the truth, but it slipped right back into obscurity again. Just where is the trial going to take us? Oh yes, I stabbed the Englishwoman, and that is the very fact that proves I'm innocent. Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I had already poisoned her? But you know what? If you didn't know that she was poisoned, then you're confessing to attempted murder. When I heard the student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat. If the courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she did, someone else would have to see justice done. Wow. I mean, that's still attempted murder. Your intent was to murder. So, yeah. So you admit it then? That everything happened as I described. That you were the one who stabbed Miss Brett in the back through the read screen. You can blame this miserable country of ours. A country that bows to the pressure of foreign powers and lets murderers walk free. What kind of future can a country like that have? That's why I did it. I did what our pathetic leaders didn't have the guts to do. Slap bang in the middle of a charming lady's back. I plunged the blade of sweet justice right in there. But it still begs the question of who stabbed her. Who poisoned her. As someone who spends his life seeing that the truth is told, I feel really, really awful about giving false information in my testimony before, but as it turns out, there was somebody else who had it in for the victim and got to her before me. That's right, you guessed it. That pretty little student girl. Oh, there's a woman after my own heart. Wow. You're implicating Ray again. She's the one who gave the poison to the Englishwoman and ended her pitiful existence. And suddenly, snap! This journo here is off the hook. No, you're not! You still attempted murder. You still go to jail for that. The argument is sound, clearly. If the witness had administered the poison himself, he need only have waited for it to take effect. Subsequently, stabbing the victim in the back would have been entirely nonsensical. No, not unless he tried to cover up the fact that the poison was used, and he wanted to frame Ray. And he was like, oh, this is perfect. She's now arguing with a girl. If I stab through the reeds, and she falls in there, and, you know, passes out, everybody will think A, she was stabbed, and B, this girl done it. And therefore this reporter had nothing to do with the poisoning. Yes, it's all quite logical. Bullshit it is. That's right, it is. Logical and true. I'm glad you've all seen the light. Justice at last. This is unbelievable. After I'd made such progress in proving his guilt, is he going to get away with it now? That would be ironic. You know, he's like, oh man, you know, they let this murderer walk around all day and escape justice. I should probably kill her and then come up with a convoluted way to make sure that I don't get any justice served to me. Huh? Think of Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san. They never stopped looking for a way forward until the judge's final gavel. But there it is, so too late. Very well then, counsel, proceed with what I has assumed to be your final cross-examination of the trial. Yes, Your Excellency. So he stabbed the Englishwoman, and it proves he's innocent. So, you do admit you had a murderous intention towards Miss Brett then? Ha! The woman's very existence offended my sense of justice. Your sense of... He's claiming some sort of righteous indignation? She was pure evil, a cold-blooded killer who'd committed murder right here on our Empire soil. But did our good-for-nothing government do anything? Not a chance, so I had to step in. Hey, Infallible Daystar! So, who done it? We're getting to that. This guy has now confessed to stabbing the girl, to stabbing Giselle Brett, but he's saying, well, as it turns out, she was already poisoned anyway, so even though I was going to kill her and I stabbed her, it doesn't change the fact that someone else poisoned her and they are the ones who actually killed her, therefore I'm innocent. Which is a really stupid argument, but anyway, it's like, you still go to jail for attempted murder. Also, I think he asked Giselle Brett to steal the poison so he could write a piece on it using this pen, which if you open it up... Let's do it again, just for everybody who missed it before. Open the barrel. And inside is the ink reservoir, which is currently empty. There's no ink in there. And this is one of those pens where you draw the ink into the reservoir by dipping the pen into the actual ink. In like a font. So she could have done the same to steal poison out of a jar in the lab. And then she was gripping this pen when she died. We still haven't come around to that at all yet. You know, why she's holding the pen. But everybody thought it was Ray's pen because it's got RM on it. And her name is Ray Membami. But this guy's name is Raitan Menimemo, so RM matches for him as well. I think we've only ever used the pen once to indicate that, but I don't think we've talked about it anymore. So yeah, I think he got the poison from her, slipped a little bit into her cup when she wasn't looking and left, and then waited for her to die of the poison. Then he saw his opportunity when Ray came in to, like, point fingers and accuse her of having stolen the poison. He thought, oh shit, if she dies from the poison, that's going to blow her theory wide open and she's going to wonder who else had done it. If I stab this woman now and kill her with that instead and then take this picture, it's going to make it look like she did it. They're going to think stab, not poison, killed her. And he'll stay quiet about the whole thing. That's what I think he done. Fly the flag of justice, put things right for the people. Yes, that was my civic duty, that's what drove me to do it. Your mum. Oh no, mum didn't do it. So in summary, murderous intention then? Or whatever you want to call it. The point is this. That Englishwoman was a blight. So I had to do what was right for society. Yet a real wrong was done by the student girl in the dock, a crime for which she must pay. Obviously, because the poisoning was nothing to do with me at all. Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her?
Hold it!
So you still maintain you didn't give the poison to the victim? Obviously. That'd be like putting a belt on your trousers when you were already wearing braces like these. The accused administered the poison, following which the witness stabbed the victim. An unforgivable act certainly, but not one of a murderer. The crime that rests on the accused's shoulders. That is how the law works, you see, yokel. Who knows, you may even learn something here today. Arsehole. 2 consecutive attempts on her life in the space of minutes, quite the day for the victim. Well, I mean, you know, she did kind of deserve it. Do something that evil and you've got it coming. That's how the law works. The law of reckoning. That's not the kind of law this court upholds. You will reiterate why you were compelled to stab the victim then, witness? The student girl and the pompous English murderer arguing it got a goat. What were they arguing about? What exactly were they arguing about? About what happened in that restaurant 9 months ago, that's what. The student girl was laying into the Englishwoman for killing her beloved mentor, Dr. Wilson. Yes, Dr. John H. Wilson, a professor of medicine, invited here from England by Professor Mikotoba, no less. Right, but the Englishwoman just jeered. Her case was to be heard by the British Consular Court in Shanghai. However, there's little doubt she would simply have been acquitted and sent back to her homeland a free woman. Of course they would have. It was eating that student girl up inside. You could see it. I really felt for her. Okay. Ah, she pissed. I can't. I can't stand here and listen to this tripe. Ray? Young girl, you stand accused here. You can't just blurt out whenever you feel like it. Oh, squeeze it out, man. Oh, that constipation's nasty, isn't it? Oh. Dude. Would you like a laxative? No, you can't. Sorry, but I'm in the middle of some very important testimony here. My God, identical. I work hard on these impressions, I'll have you know. I'm a budding actor here. Come on. Yeah, can't argue if she was just sitting there smiling sweetly. Yeah, that's the other thing as well, Freya. She said that she didn't say a thing at all, yet he said she jeered at her. Like, oh really? Is this a clip I need in my life? Oh no. Oh dear. I mean, I would say don't, but I know you guys will. So, go right ahead. Sorry, but I'm in the middle of some very important testimony here. Just keep quiet and listen. But this awful man is making all of this up. Susato, please, you have to make them listen. Who's Susato? I don't know any Susato here. I'm not a girl. Return to the dock at once, Membami-san. We're in the middle of a cross-examination. Your Excellency, please, I implore you. That journalist is clearly not a trustworthy witness. Exactly! He's a filthy, rotten, black-hearted, bigoted, dirty, great peeping Tom! Oh, goddamn! Whoa, take it easy there. Please, I really think the court should hear what the defendant has to say. Your Excellency, I see no need whatsoever to entertain the accused remarks. I will grant the request of the defense. This is likely to be the final cross-examination of these proceedings. As such, I believe it would be ill-advised to stifle the defendant's obvious concerns. Oh no, there it is. Squeeze it out! So, whilst recognizing this contravenes regular protocol, I hereby call upon the defendant to speak. Oh! Yeah, Freya's got some game when it comes to clips. Ah, you clipped it as well, Dapus. Nice. Hey, you can never have too many clips. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. It was nothing to do with Dr. Wilson. We were discussing the stolen poison. That's the other thing, which I noticed about in his testimony.
Hold it!
She said she confronted her about stealing the poison, not Dr. Wilson. She's had, like, 9 months, I think it is, to confront her about Dr. Wilson. Why would she do it now? The stolen poison that killed the victim, you mean? I suspected her of being the one to steal it. I mean, just think about how she killed Dr. Wilson. She liked her poison, that's true. Additionally, Miss Brett certainly had knowledge of the new poison. Yes, because that couldn't have been a fucking, horrible thing at all, could it? Like, sure. Let's just let the woman who killed a man with poison know all about a new poison we're making. What could go wrong? Nothing! Huh. But surely it would have been no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed from the government. Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult. That's true. I pestered Professor Mikotoba until he agreed to show me the poison when I visited the laboratory, but as I left, I was searched from top to tail. Miss Brett rather bluntly revealed the existence of the toxin we'd be developing, you see. And since Sosuke-san expressed such an interest in it, I felt unable to refuse. Obviously, I gave nothing away other than the fact that it was an extremely potent substance. I'm very ashamed of myself. It's just that I've had a singularly terrible experience with a deadly poison. I wanted to look my old enemy in the eye. Surely you can understand that. To find out if my suspicions were true, I confronted Miss Brett about the poison. I told her that if there were to be any incident involving it somehow, it would just be the university. The military would be dragged into it. The whole government even. It would be a complete disaster. And how did Miss Brett respond to your concerns? She just curled the beautiful lips of hers and said she didn't know the first thing about it, in English actually. Ah, yes. Menimemo-san, one small question if you don't mind. I do mind. Can't you see I'm busy? Clearly you were outside the beach hut listening in while the defendant and Miss Brett were conversing. Do you speak English? Presumably then it was you who wrote this article about what you'd heard. Exclusive deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. The story was published in this morning's edition of the Shoyu News. The details are too accurate for it to have been written by anyone else. Sorry, don't know what you're talking about. Yes, look at this. The entire article. It's almost what I said to Miss Brett, word for word. Well, Menimemo-san, because if all he did was tour the laboratory, how would he know about a stolen poison once they'd left? Unless he had something to do with it. As a journo and a citizen of a free country, I don't have to reveal my sources. That's a founding principle of Menimemoism. Father's clearly right about this. That reporter did write the article and he based it on what he overheard from outside the hut. The details of the poison article have been updated. The reporter Menimemo-san based it on information gleaned by eavesdropping. So that's what it was all about. You were trying to cover up the fact that you were listening in. That's why you came up with a stinking story about me arguing with her. Shut up! My stories never stink. Look, whatever you say, little girl, it doesn't alter the facts. Your Excellency, there's something I want to say. I want it to go on the record. Very well. You may amend your formal testimony. Oh, he's getting desperate. The point is, if you'd poisoned someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well. Okay.
Hold it!
Perhaps you doubted the efficacy of the poison and sought to make sure the victim would die. And that's horse dung. What? That would be like pouring pepper on your Chinese ramen before you even taste it, completely reckless. Although, it might surprise you to learn that I am a bit of an impetuous pepper pourer as it happens. Once the victim had taken the poison, she would have only had minutes away from death. And yet this man then proceeded to stab her in the back as well. There has to have been a good reason for that. Yes, to cover up the fact that she was poisoned. If it was the reporter who gave the poison to Miss Brett, then clearly he must have done it prior to Ray entering the hut. Yes, that's undeniable. Between him leaving the hut and the victim being stabbed, there was only one very crucial change in the situation. Sorry, what change? The reporter overheard the conversation between Ray and the Englishwoman. Ah, yes, that's it. Yeah. Again, he wants to cover up the fact that he poisoned her, and I guess also that he was involved in this, the poison stealing. So now he knows that somebody knows that she done something, and it's like, shit, a witness. That's when Menimemo-san first found the exact nature of the poison he'd used. That could be the key here. If the victim had unwittingly taken the poison already, the reporter would have had no reason to stab her. On the face of it, that logic sounds entirely reasonable. But there's no question that this man was responsible for Miss Brett's murder. If we could think of a plausible explanation as to why he might have stabbed her even after the poisoning, I feel sure everything would drop into place. That's what we should be looking for. I agree, and in order to do that, I must try to glean more information. Glean everything! Alright. So we've updated the poison article. The reporter Many Memo-san based it on information gleaned by eavesdropping. Why would I bother to stab a woman if I'd already poisoned her? And I heard the student girl and the pompous English woman murdering it got my goat. Nothing to do with Dr. Wilson, we were discussing the stolen poison. The point is, if you'd poisoned someone, there'd be no reason to go and stab the person as well. Gonna come around to this newspaper article. I can't imagine anything else having anything to do with any of this testimony. Incriminating photograph. I mean, maybe we put the photo to this and say, actually, this was the reason. You needed a scapegoat. That's my theory. My theory is he stabs her in order to cover up the fact that she was poisoned. You know, Giselle Brett was poisoned, and he did so on a spur of the moment to change the narrative. Imagine this. He helps Giselle Brett steal poison so that he can write an article about it. He then goes to the hut, they make the exchange, but she doesn't notice that he puts a little bit in her drink to kill her because, of course, what he said was true. He thinks she's scum and needs to die. Then he goes away and watches to see if she dies. And I guess he also wanted to know if it was really poison. And then he hears Ray come in and start arguing with Giselle Brett about how she knows that poison was stolen from the lab and she had something to do with it. And he thinks, oh shit. Someone knows it could come back to me in the end, especially if I write this article. He then takes out his knife, stabs Giselle Brett through the reeds, and then goes to take the incriminating photograph of Ray in there with her, and he gets the shot he really wants. He sees the grab the knife and he thinks, great, snap, done, because he's quick with his camera. That shot makes it look like she's stabbing her, as opposed to pulling the knife out. And then he told us a tale about how he watched all along while Ray pushed Giselle Brett to the ground and then stabbed her in the back. So now he's got the witness, or at least a suspicious person, you know, someone suspicious of the theft of the poison, on a murder charge. You know? He even sent that photo anonymously to the police, just to make sure it goes that way. And he's been scrambling now that we've been pulling the story apart to control the narrative. So he did that to try to get Ray in jail and away from this whole idea of poison. Then he could write his article as well about the stolen poison. Question is, how do we point that out? Want me to check? Oh no, I'm still working it out for now. You can have a look if you like, but I'm just exercising the brain right now. Why would I have bothered to stab a woman if I'd already poisoned her? I'm just wondering which statement. It's either going to be this one or the last statement that we have to object to. The others are fluff. I stabbed the Englishwoman, that proves I'm innocent. That's trying to object to that isn't going to change much of anything. This is the question. Why would I bother to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her? I think this is the one we have to object to. Or it's this one. The point is, if you poison someone, there'd be no reason to go and stab the person as well. They're both kind of the same thing, right? But I think this is the one we have to object to. Why would I stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her? But the question is, do we go with the poison article or the incriminating photograph? Because that's the reason he needed to create a crime scene. And frame Ray. YOLO, I'm not even going to save it.
Objection!
Shit, that's wrong. The music's still playing. Fuck! Your Excellency, I must object to the witness's last statements. And the evidence you've thrust in my direction is supposed to prove your point? I apologize. I did present it rather more forcefully than I intended to. I was going to get you to save scum. You will kindly refrain from these overly exuberant outbursts, Counsel, be they verbal or material. He really put me in my place there. I still think this is the one we're supposed to do, but now I'll save scum. Like, at the very least, get it wrong once, take the penalty, and then fuck it, you know.
Objection!
It was the newspaper article. Fuck. Well, I can think of one reason. Oh, what? What? But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you overheard outside the hut? Of course he did. There can be no question of that. After all, when we were all in the laboratory together, we were all told is that it was a terrible toxin. And there is one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Membami-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison into Miss Brett's drink.
Objection!
Where are you going with this, Counsel? Menimemo-san has made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found this opportunity, the man would have seen it. Ah, yeah, that's right, he's admitted that. He hasn't actually said, I saw her put something in her drink, I did. Which means that Miss Brett could have imbibed the poison while the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Membami-san entered the hut. Yes, very articulately put. When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison. At which point, Menimemo-san overheard some worrying information. Worrying information? What worrying information? Hang on, it's in the best book ever made. The information which is subsequently included in the newspaper article, namely that the poison was being developed in the strict secrecy and that it couldn't be readily obtained. Absolutely, in fact, that's quite an understatement. The only possible place it could come from is my lab. And furthermore, anyone inflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs in death. The extreme constriction of the pupils, yes, it's quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it would have been clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of this particular poison, which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people. Ah! Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we've been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed. Membami-san being no exception. Therefore, we can conclude that whoever administered the unique poison to the victim was a layperson unaware of its telltale properties. In other words, someone like you, right, and Menimemo-san? Yeah! We're finally getting around now the long way to the theories that I've been hanging on to for a while. It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day, and it was you who administered it to the unwitting victim. But you quickly realized that was a terrible mistake. because the poison caused such unusual symptoms and was so traceable. Idiot. As you listened in from the far side of the beach hut's thin walls, you learned these facts, but you'd already given the victim the poison at that point. It was too late, so you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. A plan that involved stabbing the victim in the back through the reed screen. But what good could that possibly do? Isn't it obvious, Counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect. Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupil constriction, but he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he? Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of the new secret poison's use, no one would ever have suspected. This is extraordinary. Yes, the effects of the poison meant it would be too easily identifiable, so the killer had to make its use, mask its use, which he attempted to do by plunging the knife into the middle of a victim's back. I would say he was trying to create an alternate murder method. Order! Order! The argument presented is sound. The court is satisfied that it warrants consideration. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward? There are a number of... I mean, yes, I counter completely. The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that, in much the same way as he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he is clinging to lost hope. Lost hope? Oh, here we go again. Oh, shit. Ah! You pathetic, useless, fallen samurai! Fallen? Who are you calling fallen? I don't need a counter-argument. What? What are you talking about? It should be blatantly obvious. I stole the poison, you say? Gave it to the victim, you say? Stabbed her, you say? Lots of fine theories. But I don't need a counter-argument because you don't have any argument yourself. Where's the evidence? The pen. You make it all sound so plausible, don't you? But without evidence, it means nothing. Whereas I base my news on facts. Facts? What do you mean? Explain yourself. I don't understand this word, facts. I mean what the professor said earlier in this trial. It's all here in my memos. Every word, every slip of tongue, all noted. That's what the Shoyu News is famous for. It's the power of a printed word. Surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government. Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be difficult. This is where the pen's gonna come in. How's that then? Blown the story wide open? See, I, Brighton Mini Memo, a mere reporter from the Shoyu News, couldn't possibly have stolen the poison from the professor's laboratory. Ah! But there can't be any question of it. He must have stolen the poison that day. He stole it and used it to kill. And if that's the case, as you've identified the poison itself as the definitive evidence we need, because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is the true culprit here. What's your point, you annoyingly handsome country bumpkin? My point is, there is one way that you, Many Memo-san, could have stolen the poison that day, huh? I have heard enough verbal conjecture now, thank you. What the court must be shown as evidence. What proof do you have that the witness stole the poison on the day in question? Well, thing is, right, I don't know if we were ever able to use this reagent. I would have liked to have used the reagent on the pen, but I think it might prompt us to do that afterwards.
Take that!
The proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen. A fountain pen? How can that possibly be relevant? These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago now. Bah! I swear by a weasel's hair calligraphy brush and nothing else. These newfangled pens are merely a fad. Yeah, they'll not last. Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, obviously I love my fountain pens. Suck up a sukon of sumptuous ink, and one's work is awash with words in the blink of an eye. That's right. Fountain pens have a small reservoir in the barrel, into which ink is sucked up through the nib of a pen in order to write with later. What does all this talking of sucking up ink have? Ah! It doesn't just suck up ink, dude. And just as it's possible to suck ink into the reservoir, it's also possible to eject it through the nib again, of course. My word. Can this really be? Dude, this is some James Bond shit. Well, Menimemo-san? When you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used your fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? By siphoning the poison up through the nib and into the pen's reservoir. Yeah!
Objection!
More absurdity. That never happened. Prove it. True, we've heard that there were procedures in place to prevent thefts like this from the laboratory, but would anyone have thought to look inside a fountain pen of all places? No, I'm a little ashamed to say. That for a fear of offending our guests, such a detailed search would not have been conducted. Well, this is quite startling, I must say. I remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by Menimemo-san. So the crucial question is, when exactly was the pen dropped? Are you suggesting... The natural conclusion is that in your haste whilst the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pen after you emptied the poison into her glass. There could be any number of alternative explanations. For example, the witness could have been using the pen to write down the details of the conversation with the victim. And when shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pen fell from his quivering hand. No, that can't be. If it was, how do you explain why the pen was devoid of ink? What? As you can see for yourself, if you examine the evidence, there would appear to be no ink present in the reservoir. What newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with no ink in his pen? No, the pen was dropped after the poison that filled the reservoir had been emptied into the victim's glass. Witness, what do you have to say in your defense? So this is how our modern justice system works, is it? So what if the ink in my pen runs dry? So what if my pencil snaps? Oh goddamn, he's going Wolverine on us. I can always claw my way back into the game. I have plenty in reserve. Shit! Fucking whoa! You claim I sucked the poison into the pen. That's wild speculation, nothing more. If you thought you could bring down fine upstanding citizen with a trick like that, think again. It looks as though it's going to take one final decisive blow to finish this matter. As I see it, the situation is now very simple. It rests upon whether or not the witness did indeed steal the poison on that day in question. And therefore, it all depends upon whether or not the defense can prove he did with evidence. No such evidence could possibly exist. This is where we get to use the reagent, hopefully. Menimemo-san, this is how our modern justice system works. What? In the courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do well to remember, because we're all past the point of speculation at this stage, I assure you. Very well then, I call upon the defense to present the aforementioned evidence. This is it then. This will be the final piece of the puzzle. The defense can prove by means of this item that it was the witness's pen was used to steal the poison. That would be the reagent.
Take that!
Counsel, what is in that bottle? This bottle contains the unique chemical reagent that can identify the poison in question. Ah! Yes, the poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids developed by my colleagues, and well, it would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other method. Or, from another perspective, simply with this chemical reagent, anybody at all could check for traces of the poison. A reagent? What? 1 drop of the contents in this bottle of the tip of your fountain pen, Menimemo-san, is all it will take to solve this case beyond all reasonable doubt. No, you can't. I won't. Your crimes are bad enough, but at least know when to admit defeat. Your Excellency, the defense requests permission to carry out the test on the fountain pen at once, and take this man's pencils away from him. No, fucking no. Whoa, dude, chill. This isn't my fault. Trying to hold my head as a civilized nation and bowing and blah blah blah. I took palms for the mighty pen, the defending battlefields and justice and righteousness and Menimemo. Oh shit! Susato, with me. I'm there. What the fuck is this? Oh, that was glorious. Aha! Did I do it right? Was that a Susato takedown, wasn't it? Not quite. That was a Ryotaro takedown. Damn. It's a combo move. It's a tag teamer. The instant the first drop of the reagent touched the nib of the fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present. No. When I saw it there in the lab, that poison, the devil got hold of me and I decided to do it on a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully. And then you waited for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? Into your fountain pen. Yes, that's right. Answer me one thing, Menimemo-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose? Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of and expose it in an article. I mean, it was a secret project after all, too juicy for a journal like me to pass up. Then why did the Englishwoman end up dead? I went into that hut intending to quiz her on the situation, that's all. As a reporter, a known killer enjoying full freedom, evading justice by leaving the country, I told her what I thought about it. And she just laughed in my face. Oh, what's this? A Far Eastern caveman purporting to be a practiced journalism? Really, you must learn the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian. What did you call me? This country with its pretensions to a justice system, to a free press, it's really very depressing. You see our superior ways in the West, yet you lack the mental capacity to emulate them. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl back into the cave you came from. Wow. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I'd have poisoned her too. That's when I remembered about the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at that time. What a terrible tale. In my head, I knew I should just get out of there as quickly as possible, but I couldn't. I couldn't let her get away with what she'd done, when she clearly had no remorse at all. I suppose it was my journo spirit getting all fired up. Oh, if only I wasn't such a journalist, I would have never killed her. No. Blame journalism. I'd like to ask you something. Yes. You often talk about justice, but surely as a journalist, you could have used other means to deliver justice that you sought. You became the very thing you were supposed to hate. There's no justice in the press. Sorry? After that trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging to find out what happened in that courtroom, and finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up. That's what it was. A cover-up? What do you mean? And the judge is like, nope, stop right there. I would remind you of your position, witness. Be careful what you say. Oh, come on. Doesn't it strike you as strange? We're certainly not allowed to convict a foreign national. Consular jurisdiction should never have come into it. And yet that puffed-up Englishwoman was going to sail away into the sunset a free woman. The only possible explanation is, behind the scenes, some deal had gone down between Britain and Japan. What sort of deal? I'd done my research, dug up all the dirt. It was all ready to be published. But you know what happened? The editor just tore the article up. He came under pressure from the government, you mean? If our government is going to let criminals walk free, if they're going to crush the free press, then what choice do I have but to see that justice is done myself? Let's not forget Many-Memo-san. That you committed murder yourself and then tried to lay the blame on the defendant's door. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Giselle Brett. What? The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all. I suppose. I'm sorry. It would appear that we have reached a conclusion in this trial at last. Counsel for the defense, Ryotaro Naruhodo. Oh, yeah, that's me. Hi. Yes, sorry, Your Excellency. Just musing in a manly way here. Just being a man over here, don't mind me. It's almost unbelievable that this is your first experience in the Supreme Court. It was all an excellent performance. In truth, it very much reminded me of your cousin's exploits. Oh, Naruhodo's, Ryosuke, you mean? The way he handled the trial 9 months ago, and the way you handled this one, it gives me hope that we are genuinely entering a new era of justice in this land. That's very flattering, Your Excellency. Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of our justice system will be forged by you and your compatriots. Thank you. So, Prosecutor Ouchie, do you have any final thoughts? What the fuck? Oh no! He's got the chopping block! Dude, you do not need to remove a finger, okay? Put the knife down. Just no. Or if you're thinking of committing seppuku, just don't. Prosecutor Ouchie? Because that's going to be very ouchy. I, Takatsuki Ouchie of the Ouchie clan, have been bested by a Kello youth not once now, but twice. If there was any shred of my former self left, it has withered and died here today. Gosh, your journey to cultural enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it? Silence! Oh, damn. Rather than living on in shame, I will end it all now with this blade. For that is the true path to Ouchieism. Ouchieism? I like how Mikotoba's just like, here we go. What an idiot. It's not even like, dude, no, stop. One hopes that is the only way in which he'll be modeling himself after the witness. Sprig of my topknot, the time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Takatsuchi. Oh, he's gonna take the top knot? No! Oh. Oh, no, don't. Oh, no, get him away from me. Fuck off. Jesus. That was rude. I don't want his greasy hair all over me. Get out of here. Now, in regard to the defendant, Raymond Barmy-san, yes, Your Excellency. I have reached my final verdict. I hereby find you not guilty. Woo-hoo. I like how the judge's head as well was just like perfectly in line with the bow of in her hair. So it's like bow and his head sitting right there, like, hi. Court is adjourned. It's over. My heart is still pounding in my chest, though. It's all I can do just to stay standing. He's even in that outfit in these scenes as well. Lawyers have such great responsibility, such a great burden to bear. Don't they, Naruhodo-san? I expected him to turn around and just give her a smile like, Susato! Susato! Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there. Ray and Father. Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you... Oh no, I think I'm going to cry. It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end too. The only reason I'm still here is because of you. Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Ray. So I would have to say that the congratulations belongs to you. Susato, don't be so standoffish. Sorry? We're friends, equals, and the trial's over, so no more of this formal super humility nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger, to throw caution to the wind. Caution to the what? I'm the great defense lawyer, Ryotaro Naruhodo, and I'm taking you out to a milk bar tomorrow. Wow, milk bar, yeah. Or something. Right, I see. I'll think about it, Ray. At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of that horrid man. It felt so good. Yes, it was satisfying. It really was. Isn't there anyone else we could throw together? I hope you're not looking at me, Ray. Oh my goodness. No, of course not. Of course not. Ah, there it is at last. Ray's lovely smile. You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you, defense attorney Ryotaro Naruhodo. Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to Ryotaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Susato Mikotoba now. Good, because this will be very confusing. So, I'll never see him again then? What a terrible shame. What? Nani? Oh, hi guys. Yeah. I'm a chick all along. What is happening? Sosuke-san and the Inspector Hasanaga. I do hope you've been keeping well. Is that really you? Yes. I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons. I mean, I don't think you could tell, especially when I changed clothes halfway through the trial and just put some ladies' attire on. You still didn't know, so I did a very good job. But it's me, Susato Mikotoba. I don't... So dashing and divine. No! Doubly dashing, yes, and devilishly divine. Just look at you. I had no idea, Miss Susato Esquires, that you were locum student Naruhodo-san Esquire's cousin. Astonishingly, astoundingly ace attorney. Poor Sosuke sounds so confused. I still remember the first time I ever met him. He was in a prison cell in London. What an extraordinary conundrum it was in that unwitting student from Japan found himself embroiled in. Yeah, it's the one where the knife fell from a house above and landed in this lady's back, and then a police officer moved it so that it wouldn't be on his beat and he could go celebrate his anniversary with his wife. This guy got caught in the middle of it. But after Naruhodo-san's skillful defense at the Old Bailey, Sosuke-san was free to return to Japan. Now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author. I'm stunned. That's a truly impressive disguise. Even I had no idea, and I'm a chief inspector for the police bureau who came up with Mr. Turtle, no less. Mr. Turtle's kinda lame. I'm not sure you should be admitting to that, Inspector. That you came up with this by yourself. You should have said someone else told you to do it, because that would have been better. Amazing. You're a woman of many faces, I see. Just two, really, and this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope. No, this is going to be it now. For the rest of the game, for the next 4 cases, Susato is going to have to dress as a dude again. Every time, I bet. That's going to be a thing. Just because she said that. Just this one time, I hope. It's like, no. Prepare yourself. Oh, I'm not a patch on you, though, Inspector. Well, I am a professional, of course. I can't take you seriously with a turtle on your head. You just said I'm a professional looking like that. Nah, bro. I do worry about Inspector Hosonaga sometimes, I really do. I mean, the whole coughing up blood thing is kind of a worry, yes. 9 months ago, when he appeared here at the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover disguised as the head waiter of a restaurant. Does he actually enjoy being a cop? He seems to do a lot of non-cop stuff. And then on the steamship to Great Britain, of course, disguised as a sailor to keep us safe on the journey. Good job. You know, because he died. Though that didn't help you, did it, Kazuma-sama? From my perspective, I have to admit that I have mixed feelings about all this. I mean, now the truth has been lost forever. What do you mean? I'm talking about the murder that the Englishwoman committed in the end last year. Ah, yes. It was an English doctor she killed, as I understand it. Dr. John H. Wilson, yes. The man I invited to Japan personally. The mystery is, why did she kill him? And now the culprit herself is dead, we'll probably never know the answer. On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter. With Mr. Herlock Sholmes, the great detective, I mean. Yes, I remember Mr. Sholmes well, of course. Ah, my arch-nemesis. How lightly you utter his name. Well, according to the stories published about him in The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes, a best friend. That man was an exceptional doctor of medicine by the name of John H. Wilson. What? Dr. Wilson? I just can't believe that it's a coincidence. I think that the English doctor of medicine killed here in Japan 9 months ago must have been the friend and partner of Mr. Sholmes. And if that's really true, I mean, you would think that her father would know that at the very least. He knows the guy, he went to England, so he would have been around and Sholmes would have made appearances and he would have, you know, they would have talked, right? Unless he just like, oh yeah, no, I'm not talking about myself at all, just, you know, get on with being a student here in England. You know, unless that happened, then, you know, he would have known. Then the poor girl won't ever see her beloved father again. Oh, Iris. Come on, Mikotoba, out with it. As you know, I travelled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time that you were born. Yes, grandmother told me about it. On returning to Japan, I took up my profession at the Imperial Yumei University, but I also serve another role as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs. Yes, I'm aware of that as well. In that case, I am sure you understand there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you. So he does know. Could you just tell me one thing? Why did you summon me back to Japan? It's been 2 months now since I returned. When I left England, it was because of an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said that you'd collapsed with a high fever and you were growing weaker by the day. What? Where did that news come from? That's what I'd like to know, because after that long sea voyage, I found you in fine health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain you perceived might inconvenience me in some way or harm me? That's really the only explanation I can think of. Dear me. Do you reserve your most cutting glares for your father, Susato? I'm sorry, my dear. I simply... Ah! Let me go! Oh no, he's back. He's running away! Tackle him to the ground! Many memo-san. So, one fur wasn't enough for you? I've got one last thing to say before they take me away. Professor. Me? I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate. Visiting student? Giselle Brett, you mean? No, not her. The student of law who left for Great Britain 8 months ago. What? Student of law? He must mean Kazuma-sama? What are you talking about? What does any of this have to do with Kazuma-sama? Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England, and that he died on the steamship, and that he'll never... Ah! Oh, goddamn! Well, I didn't expect to find him in here. What were you officers playing at? I'm terribly sorry, Your Excellency. Oh, there's some conspiracy shit going on here. You see, the thing is, at the end of the last game, at the end of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles 1, just as Susato was leaving, the whole thing about the Morse code stuff that was on the 2 music discs that play simultaneously on a special machine and give off 2 separate tones, and then they said, it's actually not Morse code, or it doesn't conform to Morse code. But then Iris was like, it could be a different language as Morse code, because they have different alphabets in different countries, and then she realized... You know, when she was like spitting one of them out, she's like, it's just, you know, it's just this, what was the name of the guy? No, Kazuma's first name, Asogi. She just said that was the first word, Asogi. And she's like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It must not be the right one. And then they're like, wait, Asogi? So they went through the whole thing, and it was Asogi Kazuma. And then there was Tobias Gregson was on the list. There was just a list of names. There was Sogi Kazuma, Tobias Gregson, there was someone called something Shin, I can't remember the full name, and then there was Jay Wilson, and then the final line was, that is all. That was all that was in the transmission. And we were like, what the fuck? Kazuma and Wilson's name were on there? And then Gregson's on there, and some person we haven't met yet. What does all this mean? So there's some weird thing going on, you know? I was coming to tell you that the rickshaw has arrived, Eugen, and it's a good job I came by. Yes, thank you for dealing with him. I'll be there shortly. Oh, Your Excellency. The trial's over. I'm not Your Excellency anymore. I'm merely your father's friend. Seishiro Jigoku. Seishiro Jigoku. And may I say that since I saw you last, you seem to have taken on a more dashing appearance, Susato. Oh, you knew! He knew already. He was like, nah, that's his daughter. Did you know all along from the start of the trial? A judge sees everything, Susato. Everything. I couldn't let you take the risk. If Seishiro here hadn't known, then he'd have recognized you, so I had a word in his ear beforehand, as an old friend. So, Seishiro, shall we? Yes. Having ruled on that one case, we now have various diplomatic issues to address. Before you go, Father, sorry, my dear. We shall have to return to our earlier conversation at a later date. But well done again, both of you. You did admirably. Oh, thank you very much. What did you think of my Sashiro sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that. It was good. Cool. It's not bad. It's alright. Whatever could Father be hiding from me? About Giselle Brett, about Dr. Wilson, and now it seems, according to the reporter, about Kazuma-sama. I'm going to have to bring this up with Father sometime, when nobody else is around. Hi. Judicial Assistant Mikotoba-san, Esquires, could I have a word? Oh, yes, of course, Soseki-san. What is it? Oh, Soseki, I've forgotten now what I keep calling him. I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting like this now. Dude, she's like young enough to be your daughter, back off. You see, there's something I need to tell you. Oh? I believe that it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back from England. This I have to hear. Please, Sosuke-san, tell me at once. I will! As you know, my time in England was terrible, cursed, I have no doubt. Such awful things I was embroiled in, thank goodness locum student Naruhodo-san Esquire stepped in. After he secured my freedom, I couldn't wait to get on the ship back to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experiences to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next thing I knew, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Mikotoba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report. My father. He seemed to be especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was the very next day that he sent the telegram to you to ask you to return to Japan. What was it then? The particular part my father was interested in? I don't really know exactly. But do you remember them? Those two terrible cases I was caught up in. Of course, I could never forget. Your father seemed to concern himself mainly with the second case. The second one? You mean the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public? Wait a minute. Two cases that he was caught up in. He was only in one. He was only in the one case though, and that was his murder trial, and then he fucked off back to Japan. So that was the third case, wasn't? No, the third case was Magnus McGilded, and then this guy was the fourth case, and then the fifth one was the whole like killing of the pawnbroker and the Hound of the Baskerville story. Something's off, yeah. So was he involved in this? Is that what he's saying? But before he went, he was somehow involved in the Hound of the Baskerville story? And we still don't know how Susato knows the name of that story. Because nobody said it, but she was like, oh yeah, the Hound of the Baskervilles. And they were like, how do you know the name of the story that was never published? It's been locked away in the pawn shop's back room for ages. Which is why the only case involving you that any member of the public is aware of is the first. Well, I don't care. I don't have to listen to what that dastardly detective says. Anyway, the point is, it seems that case somehow holds the key to all these curious unanswered questions. That horrific, hideous, heinous case. The case of the haunted lodgings. Unless they're counting it twice, you know, being like, the murder case was one part of it, and then the fact that he thought his room was haunted is the other part. But I don't remember Sholmes saying anything to him about never speaking about this. So maybe that was a between case that we didn't get to play. Maybe that happened between, because from that, they then moved into Sholmes' apartments, and then it skipped forward quite a while. if I remember correctly. Because this was literally like day 2 in England. The day 1 was Magnus McGill, the day 2 was Sosuke's case. And he was concerned that his apartment was cursed and haunted. So maybe they did something else, but we didn't get to play. That case somehow caused my father to summon me urgently back to Japan. I thought the whole business was over, but it seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only the start. Perhaps the story is not yet told. Interesting.